For months, as the world's second worst coronavirus outbreak devastated Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro dismissed the threat.
No meu caso particular, pelo meu histórico de atleta, caso fosse contaminado pelo vírus, não precisaria me preocupar.
Now tens of thousands of Brazilians are dead, more than 1.7 million infected, and Brazil is trapped in an escalating disaster that critics blame on Bolsonaro's frequent and highly public disregard for the health policies. This week, he tested positive for COVID-19. The Washington Post analyzed hundreds of videos and photos of Bolsonaro to retrace his steps in the 2 weeks before he first reported symptoms on July 5th. According to Bolsonaro's schedule and local news reports, he met with 78 officials and business people, traveled to 4 different states, and attended 11 events over the course of those 14 days. But the visual evidence obtained shows he was at events with even more people than his official schedule suggests. Sometimes he wears a mask and maintains a distance from others, but at other times he shakes hands, gives out hugs, and speaks in close proximity to people without any face covering. On June 21st, Bolsonaro travels from the Brasilia airbase to Afonso's airbase in Rio de Janeiro. He speaks at a paratrooper's funeral. He's in physical contact with several people. The next day, Bolsonaro participates in 2 official ceremonies. He wears a mask intermittently. At the opening ceremony of the National Drug Policy Week, he takes off his mask when he poses for pictures with the General Director of the Federal Police. He also fires several different guns at a firing range and visits with federal police. He then returns to the Planalto Palace, his official workplace, for the inauguration of a new TV channel in Brazil. He hugs the president of one of Brazil's media conglomerates. Neither is wearing a mask. They walk over to unveil a plaque and stand beside the Minister of Agriculture and a Supreme Court justice. He spends the rest of the day meeting with 6 officials, according to his schedule. On June 23rd, a judge orders Bolsonaro to wear a mask when in public spaces in Brasilia and the surrounding federal district. That day, Bolsonaro attends meetings at the presidential offices with 11 people before going to the Aerospace Command operations in the afternoon. At a ceremony for the opening of a space operations center, he is seen shaking hands with Air Force officers. On June 24th, his schedule shows 11 meetings between his offices and his residence, indicating he came into contact with at least 25 people. Bolsonaro attends a breakfast with 15 people. They sit at a table and gather in a circle. No one wears a mask. On June 25th, his schedule outlines meetings with 11 people and 2 ceremonies with an unknown number of people. The first ceremony was a signing event in the presidential offices. He does not wear a mask when he addresses the attendees, but does so when he sits with 3 government officials. Shortly after, he travels to the Ministry of Justice, where he shakes hands at a ceremony to unveil an exhibit honoring a Brazilian border force. Bolsonaro attends 2 events that are not on the official schedule that day. A meeting to appoint the Minister of Education, who later resigns, neither wears a mask, and his weekly live briefing. No one at the briefing, including the musician in the back, wears a mask. On June 26th, he flies from Brasilia to Ceará. A crowd awaits his arrival at the airport. He travels to a dam in the city of Pinaforte. He does not wear a mask in the helicopter with the Minister of Infrastructure. While in Pinaforte, Bolsonaro walks into large groups of people, takes photos, and shakes hands without wearing a mask. On June 27th, there are no official events listed on Bolsonaro's schedule, but video shows he visited the town of Araguari. He first arrives at a local snack bar, which according to local media had closed down during the pandemic but reopened for Bolsonaro. Several photos and videos from the visit show him without a mask. He shakes hands with army officials, hugs an older gentleman, picks up a child, and wades into a crowd. On June 29th, his schedule includes 9 meetings at the presidential offices with 11 people in total. The next day, Bolsonaro meets with presidents of Brazilian soccer clubs. Bolsonaro and the executive secretary of the Ministry of Communications do not wear masks during the meeting. According to the schedule, Bolsonaro meets with 33 officials over the course of the day. That afternoon, Bolsonaro wears a mask at the emergency aid extension ceremony. At some point during the day, at the presidential offices, Bolsonaro returns a dog adopted by his wife to its original owner. Bolsonaro does not wear a mask and shakes hands with the owner. On July 1st, Bolsonaro's schedule includes 6 meetings at the presidential offices with at least 8 people in total. The next day, his schedule includes 4 meetings with at least 5 people. He meets with the Minister of Foreign Affairs before attending the LVI Summit of Heads of State of Mercosul and Associated States. Bolsonaro and Araguari do not wear masks. That evening in the Planalto Palace, he hosts a live video conference, which occurs weekly on Thursdays, with 6 other people sitting closely together in a room without masks. On July 3rd, 108 employees who work at the presidential offices tested positive for coronavirus, according to Brazil's General Secretariat. Bolsonaro plans to hold meetings at the presidential offices with 8 people. At a meeting with this businessman, neither Bolsonaro nor anyone else at the meeting wears a mask. Attendees talk and joke in small circles. On July 4th, the day before he started experiencing symptoms, Bolsonaro travels from Brasilia to Florianópolis early in the morning. He shakes several people's hands and hugs at least 3 people. He flies over the surrounding area to survey damage caused by a cyclone. Later that day, he returns to Brasilia to attend a 4th of July celebration at the residence of the U.S. ambassador in a wealthy residential area, Lake South. He shakes hands with the ambassador, eats with at least 8 other guests, and poses for pictures without social distancing. No one in attendance wears a mask. On July 5th, Bolsonaro first reports experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. The following day, he meets with 9 people. He gets tested at a Brasilia hospital for COVID-19. On July 7th, Bolsonaro announces the positive results of his test. The visual evidence from the 2 weeks before he started to experience symptoms shows Bolsonaro routinely ignored the recommendations of health experts by not wearing a mask or abiding by social distancing guidelines. He was around hundreds of people. Even after testing positive, Bolsonaro has been inconsistent in following health and safety guidelines.
Os mais idosos, que têm comorbidade, os mais jovens, tomem cuidado, mas se for acometido do vírus, fique tranquilo, porque para vocês, a possibilidade de algo mais grave é próximo de 0. Obrigado a todos. Até daqui uma semana, se Deus quiser.